Hello, all. Let me present you with volunteer skill matching engine. This is a new project where I wanted Gen AI to solve real world problems or real world coordination problems. Like, for example, you have some crisis. How to identify right volunteers for this right humanitarian crisis in real time? So, for example, we have delays happening to find these volunteers. It's not like volunteers are not there. We have volunteers, but how to find immediately those qualified, relevant, available responders for some crisis? So, I am building a system to close the gap by using the semantic AI. How does exactly it works? So, whenever we are uploading the volunteers, it is embedded is as a semantic embedding, and I'm using text embedding 3 small model. So once this embedding is done, we are also uploading the crisis data. So once the crisis data is there, we are doing an embedding of that as well. And then this model will run a cosine similarity between the embeddings of volunteers plus the embeddings of the crisis. Once the cosine similarity is done, then we are doing a score match, like a ranking model, like we will rank it, like whether this is a correct match or not. And then the GPT model will be used to write it in a plain English, that these are the coordinators or these are the volunteers which we can work on. Technology stack: FastAPI, text embedding 3 small, GPT 4o mini, and NumPy are the libraries which I'm using. NumPy and Pydantic model. This is a very recent implementation and can be used in many ways once it starts working. So, for example, I'm loading the seeded data. Now, this data is already in my Python file, and you can say it's hard coded for now, but these are there. So, if you can see these volunteers, Maria, James, these are all volunteers which are now embedded. Once this embedding is done, so two things are happening when I'm seeding the data: volunteers and crisis. Both I am adding it into the demo file. Once it is added, it gets embedded. So we get the embeddings of volunteers and we get embeddings of crisis. Now, when I run match engine, with what I have to match, I want to match with the crisis. Now this is a crisis which has happened, like medical emergency. I want someone who can help for Spanish, in Spanish. So I'll just click and I'll run the match, and it will now, behind the scene, it is doing a cosine similarity search between the volunteers and between the crisis, and which will give the data. So while this is happening, I'll just show you the code. So seeded data is already there. You can see here, these are the seeded data for volunteers and the crisis. And then I have the embeddings, which is done over here at the top. The functions I have written. Again, these are Pydantic models. These are the embedding. We are using text embedding 3. These are the functions which we are using. And then we are saying convert these volunteer profile into reach embedding and convert crisis into reach embedding. Once that is done, this GPT model is then used to score it and make sure things are in a perfect language. Also, if you can see, I have cosine similarity search, which does the re-ranking. You can see here, this post request is basically finding the crisis ID, doing a cosine similarity with the volunteers, and then ranking with the top K matches. So this is the main aim of the project, like how we can use the Gen AI in our real world issues. And you can see, when I said medical emergency, it mapped to a triage, and when I said Spanish, it mapped to the someone who is in Spanish. So she is the best one to volunteer this particular crisis, and not the last one. If you see James Okonawa, he is from supply chain, and driving is his experience, so he's not well matched to this thing. So thank you for watching something which is useful for the world. Thanks.